Nice to meet you, Matt.
Nice to meet you, Krista.
As you could see, been a fan for a little bit.
Yeah.
In fact, to become a real fan of GWAR, you need to see them live. And that happened for me back in 2001 at the Club Soda.
Oh, nice.
I wasn't prepared. I was a little bit prepared. I had a really light collared shirt, so that was fine for me. But I didn't expect, the grandeur. So, it's been 20 years, a little bit more. I saw you guys a few times since then, 2 times with the sounds of the underground tour.
Nice.
That was fun. I got to be a slave for a minute in 2013 at Heavy Montreal.
Okay.
I was on the side stage, and at some point, there was a big box that almost fell. I caught it, so I was almost a slave for a minute. That was a whole lot of fun. Last time I saw the Brocky live, and that was 2013. And in 2014, I saw you guys with Blotar, of course, and Volvatron at the Corona. And that was, sadly, this last time you guys came to Montreal. But a whole lot of fun. And now I know even more about the band. I've been listening to the records, the video cassettes as well.
Nice.
I got a bunch, collector. So what I love about the documentary is its honesty. Everybody says the things as they are, naming a cat, and as they feel them. And, even if the truth is sometimes ugly. So you guys are a collective. That's what is so cool about you guys. You went through hell together. I mean, fights, changes, accidents, addictions, disease, even death. It's, any band could have broken up, years ago.
Yeah.
So, and the documentary, a few words on the actual film. It's at your image. It's like GWAR. It's super fun. It's cartoony. Works so well. It's brutal in the themes and the testimonies, and it's punk as sorry.
Oh no, always. Yeah, always.
So it's about passion, dedication, and it's gorgeous. I loved it. It shows that everyone involved, the band and the filmmakers, clearly put their guts in it. It's like a blood pact, no pun intended.
Yeah.
So it looks like the film was in the works for quite a while. I saw, the air changes and people draying a little bit. Can you tell me when and how it first started?
Well, it was initially Bobby and Don were working on a documentary, and they met Scott. I'm not 100% sure how we kind of cross-pollinated with Scott, but once that happened, Scott would come out, interview us in little bursts here and there. It was like at least 3 or 4 years. He'd come to different shows. He'd get the shows, he'd get more footage. And then as he started to understand his narratives and understand what, he could do with everything, he'd ask you more specific questions like, hey, what about this? And how did you feel about that? Yada, yada. And so, it took like probably, I think it was like 3 or 4 years, somewhere like that to do all of it.
So we saw you guys evolving, growing. So we saw you in your audition footage. So
that was for Phallus in Wonderland. And it was funny. Yeah, because Hunter had said basically, he was like, oh, well, there's a couple parts that you could probably do in Phallus, but they want you to do the audition. But, you're pretty much in the band. It was like, do the audition anyway. I'm glad they got the tape. It was funny. It was hilarious because it was like, I'm sitting in the booth at the Metro and we're, everybody knows everybody. It wasn't like I was just walked in off the street. Everybody knew me. It was just like, well, whatever you need me to do, I'll do. Come on, let's do this, But
So it wasn't a real audition, but you knew the band. Can you remember the first time you actually saw GWAR live?
Yeah. Oh man. So it's just like what you said with your experience, and that is where a lot of true GWAR fans come from, because when you see the show, it's such a cathartic, mind-blowing experience, because there isn't really much out there that's like GWAR, you know, and you go through this process where it's like, what am I seeing? I'm getting bombarded by crazy music. I'm getting hit with spew, and there's crazy stuff happening on stage, and the kids are going crazy. I was a fan in high school. I had met a couple. I've actually met Don Dragulich first at the 930 Club, and I had talked to him about, he got us into the show because it was sold out. He just put us on the guest list, and I got in there, and the first song, I just remember being like, pushed up against the wall, kind of stuck there the rest of the show with like my arms like this, and then just blood is just hitting me, and I'm like, but you know, immediately you're just like, chaos ensues off the first song. This kid gets up on stage, and Dave physically bites the kid in the ear and then throws him off, and I was just like, my teenage mind was like, you know, like, oh my god. So I was like, yeah, and I met Hunter that night as well, and so I struck up a friendship with Hunter and Don. When I came to go to college down at VCU in Richmond, I started hanging out with both of them, really. And me and Hunter were working on comic books and doing all kinds of other stuff. And he would, you know, rope me into the slave pit to get, hey, we're going to go pour medallions and make baby Goldberg, do this, that, the other, you know, and work on projects. And so slowly but surely it was like enslaved, you know, just by proximity, really. You know? But
was it really organic as a process? Yeah. So that's the best way to enter such a wide array of different personalities. In the documentary, you talk about doing mail orders. So perhaps it was for the documentary, but have you done worse things as a first, you know, the new guy in the group?
Well, I mean, like when, you know, it was sort of like that hazing period where you did every single job no one wanted to do, you know, like, there was, you know, some of the cleanup, some of the things like that were just like, but, you know, it also was, I think it really weeded out the people who were just there, because we've had guys go, I'm going to be Otis's little brother, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And you're like, no, you're not. Like, what do you mean? You know, it's like, what we need you to do is do this, because you're going to help the group out, you know? And, you know, it really sort of weeded out the people who were just there for the wrong reasons, because essentially you really needed to love this. You needed to really be into the concept and the idea to struggle through with everybody else who was already struggling to make this dream of fruition, you know? So it's like,
because those things are not simple to achieve. There's so much going on. And what I like about the documentary is that they put a spotlight on you guys, the slave pit, you know, the behind the scenes people that are as important as the musician, but we don't actually know those guys. We saw them half naked, you know, rambling on stage. And sometimes, like you, they evolve into a character. So when did that happen for you?
Well, we went through the process when we went on hiatus in the late 90s, early 2000s. And
2 years.
Yeah, it was like 2 years time where we sort of did other things. And when we got back, we were like, well, you know, Dave wanted to settle in on just having the one, so like work on the five, but basically have Otis and how it affects. And it kind of broke that archetype with Sexecutioner, Slimenstra, and Sleazy, and all these side characters like Techno, you know. And so as we saw the show, it was just like, it wasn't as dynamic as having those extra characters come out and people care about these other characters versus just Otis. And so in about, I think it was 2008, we'd already had Bone Snapper, which was Bobby's side character, and he was taking over for Sexecutioner as like the bodyguard. So it was only logical for me to take over the bad guy role, because I'd already been doing all the bad guy roles, and become a Destructo, which actually Don was like, yeah, you should totally just be a Destructo, you know? You already play Bozo all the time anyway. You should just make up your own one. And we were like, it was the the classic, like, well, we got a guy with a monkey wrench, and then I got a hammer, so you should have a saw. You know, it's just like, that's the logic. But and it worked out great because me and Don saw the character kind of the same, and as we were doing designs together, it really kind of became simpatico. So
and it works so well with a saw. Yeah. You know, I'm a big GWAR fan, of course. I'm writing for a horror website. So Evil Dead, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a big saw. And of course, you know, in 2014, I saw that big saw and that was just mind blowing. I was shooting for another website, pictures for a review of the concert. I was a bit scared, you know, with the camera and the blood and all, but you know, that was so much fun, man. So I was wondering during that hiatus, because you took a few years off, and I was wondering what did you miss about the band during that time off away from the guys?
Well, it was like I went and I worked for a scene shop in Atlanta, and it was like I was, you know, I was making money, but I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I was like getting hired to do stuff, you know. And then I went and I did a Broadway show. And it was the same thing. It's not my thing. I can keep adding what I know from GWAR to these things, but it wasn't as freeing as being able to come to do GWAR and just have a free pass to do whatever you want. You know, any concept is there. Anything you want to do is there. So you miss that a lot, you know. And we all
camaraderie, I guess. The camaraderie.
Oh yeah, and that was the thing. We kept in contact with each other. When I went to do the Broadway show, Bobby was living in New York, so I'd go hang out with him. And he had he was showing a lot of art. So we were doing a lot of those things together. And, you know, it was like talking to Dave, talking to Brad, talking to Dirks every like couple of weeks, something like that. It was always like, we're going to get the band back together. You know, like we're going to do this, right? We're going to do this. People just needed a break. You know, the 90s, the end of the 90s really wore us out. We were touring way too much, and we sort of kind of got in a stagnant kind of thing with the career. It was like it just sort of plateaued, and I think it wore people out, you know. So.
Yeah, it showed in the documentary. You said it, and a lot of the other members that you, at some point you had so many tours back to back, and you know people need a break because it wasn't, you know, the easiest tours conditions. We saw those yellow buses, and I guess by the end of the 90s, wasn't in those buses anymore.
No. Like in the mid 90s, we started doing them. But if you're doing, you know, 10 or 9 months out of the year, you know, when do you have a life? When do you do anything? All your loved ones are mad at you because you never see them, and yada yada. You know, it's like it's hard, you know. So.
But it's a lifestyle. It comes back because you need that intensity, and that kind of intensity it shows in the film as well. It's intense and even tragic. Sometimes you had so many things happening to you guys. It's really, really, really impressive because as fans, we don't know all that stuff. You know, we know. Of course, if a member pass away, we know and we grieve as well. Not as much as you guys, but I was wondering, what is your fondest memory of Corey Smoot?
Oh man, there's so many because that dude was such a nice guy, and he was so sweet, and he had like his own like little speak. You know, he'd be like, gabagoo, dabba dabba. You know, it's like he had this like fun speak he'd do. But I remember one European tour we were doing, me and him would just sit up in the double-decker bus. They usually have like this observation thing. And then we'd just sit up there and we would talk for hours as we're just driving through parts of Europe and just hanging out. And it was so much fun because he was a fun, creative dude. And again, he was the sweetest guy, man. He really was.
And sometimes you develop bond with different persons because you're so many. Like you're touring as like 20 people, I guess.
Well, we're down to 14 now, but 14. You know, I think the height we had 27 was full production. It was bananas, but But
it's intense, but it looks so much fun, even though there've been feud and a lot of arguments, of course.
But that's every creative thing,
exactly. Of course, Dave Rocky, he looks like an amazing, insane person, really creative and really, 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 really out there with, that anecdote with the Terminator outfit. It's just blew my mind. Just crazy. But do you have a crazy story, the craziest story of that guy?
There's there's too many of those. Oh my God. Well, I mean, it's funny because it was always his thing, because he was just being himself. It wasn't this act. It was him. He was just being him. So it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to go to Europe. And you're just, okay, all of a sudden you're going to just cut your hair into a tri-mohawk, dye it blue. You're going to look like the biggest freak that is going to get stopped every time we go anywhere. And he'd be passed through security. We're all getting patted down. But he looks like a raving maniac, and he gets through. We're like, every time we're stopping, it's like, how do you do this? But wow. I mean, there's so many. He was an amazing dude, and there's a bunch of times where you just go, man, he should still be here, man. He really should still be here.
But at least as fans, we have those memories from concerts. We have a few videos. We have the albums. So people like that, when they're artists and the recording artists, they live forever, because we can keep a little piece of that and cherish it. And I'm really glad for you to add a lot of great years with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely lived together. We have lived our lives together, and it's been an amazing ride.
Mm-hmm. And also about the documentary, I really love as I said, the honesty and the way you specifically talked about the toxic relationship the two main guys from the band had together, Hunter and Dave, and the fault of your personal relationship with your mentor, Hunter. Those things, it's hard to talk about it. Good job to finding the right words to speak about those really hard situations. It makes the documentary feel really raw, really real, and we have a glimpse of what it really is to be in a band. Because as fans, sometimes fans think it's all good, all party and fun, and people leave and people come and no hard feelings.
Well, it's also like that, like you said, that conflict between Dave and Hunter, right? Like, me trying to put myself in Hunter's place to think, okay, he should be up front with Dave, getting the accolades, getting the attention, and getting that kind of credit. And it's like, even to this day, we still have fans who are like, it was Dave. It was always Dave. It was Dave singing. It was like
the front man. Yeah.
It's not. It's never. It was Dave contributed, an astronomical amount to it. But so did Hunter. So did Chuck. So did Don. So did Danielle. Everybody put their heart and soul into this thing, and that's where it's really nice with the documentary to go, hey, but this is what really was going on. Here's what you can read off Wikipedia that's wrong, but
exactly.
here's what's really going on.
Setting the record straight in a way, because Hunter has not been with the band for a while, but as you said, he was there in the beginning. Without him, would have been.
It resonates. Hunter's contribution resonates.
Of course,
the ideas, the initial structure. That's Hunter. It's all like there that like, let's not care what society thinks. Let's just do something cool. Let's do some biting commentary. Let's show the world something different, and Hunter, that was part of his deal. He was always like, I want to enlighten people and entertain at the same time, So.
And it works great. And a few last questions, because we're running off time. To you, because those exercise doing a documentary about your band, makes you look back about the achievements and the great things you got to do together. For you, what's the pinnacle of the GWAR? Your career in GWAR? What's the pinnacle?
Well, it's fun. I always go by it's like benchmarks, because like to think say like 5 years ago or something like that, to go I'd ever share the stage with Hunter again, to be like that would be a thing. And then we go out, we do this tour together, and we get to hang out with each other again, and it was just like amazing, because it's like that's my friend I haven't been able to see and hang out with because of tension and strife from the band for so long. To now I'm back with we're buds again. We're hanging out. We call each other, hey, how you doing? And it's amazing. But that was like, to be Solborg and be on the same stage with Techno was just like, that's how I always saw it. I was like, dude, I am not your competition. I am your backup. Like that's what I am. I'm like, let's go. So it definitely was like, that was amazing. That was amazing to be back on stage with Hunter, for sure. Awesome. But again, there were so many of those
of course. But I figure because your testimony was so heartfelt, and you were really it came across that you're really sad to have lost a friend, and to be able to reconnect with the people that someone that you spend so much time with them, you'll learn so much from, and then reconnecting again. It's a great thing. It's a gift. Yeah. And last thing, the most important question of all: when are you gonna come back to Montreal?
Well, I think I don't know if we're doing it this fall. I'd have to look, but soon.
Yeah. Come back. We need you guys in Montreal. We need some blood.
I know, right?
But thank you so much.
Montreal. We love Montreal, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, people in Montreal, they're. I'm speaking for my people, but we're really enthusiastic people, and we show a lot of love to the bands we love, and we're really energetic. And I think we have a great relationship with GWAR, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks again for taking your time today, and see you in Montreal next time.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Cheers.